It was a long wait. It was a long trial. There was a lot of hardship and pain and suffering. But with the jury's verdict today, there is now justice. Defendant Shannon O'Connor was convicted of more than 60 crimes against more than a dozen child victims from Los Gatos. Every child who testified, the jury convicted the defendant of a charge involving that child. The charges included child endangerment, annoying and molesting a child, dissuading witnesses from testifying, and facilitating the forcible sexual assault from one child on to another child. We expect as parents that we protect children, protect our children, protect other people's children. This defendant took advantage of children, manipulated children, hurt children emotionally, mentally, physically, and did that for her own perverse reasons. And today there's justice for what she had done. It's important to recognize the victims who testified and their families, their parents who supported them during this very difficult ordeal. This case does not happen if the children do not come forward and stop what this defendant was doing. Without the children, the conduct continues. So our first thanks and appreciation is for the child victims in this case who came forward. Secondly, this is a case that few law enforcement agencies other than the District Attorney's Office Bureau of Investigations could investigate. There were hundreds of individuals interviewed. There are terabytes worth of information. Phone calls, jail calls, videos, social media. And investigator Christina Hanks from the District Attorney's Bureau of Investigation was the lead investigator and brought all of this evidence together. Without her, this case doesn't happen. And then, also standing with me are three prosecutors on this case. This case began with Rebecca Wise, who's standing to my right, who did an enormous amount of work on this case. She's such a good prosecutor, I then promoted her, and we then handed this case to Joanna Lee and Morgan Willis. And they put together a powerful and compelling presentation to the jury in a trial that took months, 4 months to try this case, 63 counts, more than 20 witnesses testifying, just a tremendously complex case, and they put it together in a very strong and compelling way, which allowed the jury to come back with a verdict of more than 60 guilty counts, and the defendant looking at decades and decades in prison. Because of Joanna's efforts and Morgan's efforts, there's justice and there's accountability. With that, I'm happy to take a few questions.
Can you tell us how many years he could be facing at this point, given the guilty verdict today?
So there's a sentencing hearing that's going to happen later this afternoon, which may affect a little bit on the margins, the number of years, but it's safe to say that we're talking about more than 30 years in prison, somewhere in that neighborhood.
Was all the victims underage?
The victims at the time that these crimes were committed were minors. And I think one thing, honestly, that Joanna and Morgan did that I thought was extremely compelling is they had photographs of the victims at the time that this defendant committed her crimes against them, and you could see they were children. And then she had a photo next to that of them as what they look like today, 6 years later. And so I think that really helps to capture the long-term effects of what the defendant did to the victims in this case.
Can you clarify what's happening when the jury comes back after lunch?
Yes. So actually what's going to happen after lunch is the defendant is going to decide whether to waive jury and have the judge decide the aggravating factors. So I think that's going to happen first. If the defendant waives a jury trial on the aggravating factors, then there'll be a court trial on the aggravating factors. And the aggravating factors, if the judge or jury finds them to be true, would add some additional amount of time. But I can say that we're looking at 30 years or more in terms of just the charges that she's been convicted of now.
Aggravated to be what?
One second.
Of a victim law postulated the guilty charge. Again, whether is she guilty of that act or more of a facilitating, just so we can make sure we're clear about that.
Yeah, so she was found guilty of 2 counts of forcible. She was found guilty of 2 counts of digital penetration of an individual that was too intoxicated to consent. And she was found guilty as an aider and abetter, as a facilitator of those crimes. She encouraged, facilitated, and aided and abetted one child in sexually assaulting another child, and did that on 2 separate occasions with 2 separate victims.
Are those the counts that held the most weight in terms of adding to the sentencing time and this time?
Those are the most serious counts. Those counts carry 3, 6, or 8 years in prison.
Yeah. Ask you about the aggravated thing.
So there'll be a jury trial or a court trial, and the aggravating factors that will be argued about are whether the defendant violated a position of trust, took advantage of vulnerable victims, or used very sophisticated measures and manipulation to commit these crimes. Those are some of the aggravating factors that the prosecution and defense will be arguing about in front of either a jury or a judge.
And your position on that is what?
Our position is that those aggravating factors are present, and that's what we'll be arguing to a judge or a jury. We think that those factors are things that the defendant did, and they would increase the potential sentence.
I know we're talking about a criminal individual here at this point, but are there any lessons for parents out of this? You know, either hosting parties or with kids who might be going to parties?
Look, I have 2 daughters that are adults now. It's not easy to be a parent. But I think that every parent has a strong instinct to protect their children and to protect other children. And what is so disturbing and wrong about this case is this defendant used children, took advantage of them, manipulated them for her own perverse sexual interests. And I would just tell parents to hug their children.
Can you
Were you
critique?
able to respond to the criticism from Shannon O'Connor saying that she felt I'm being used as sort of a place to, hold people accountable for these crimes, but it's being overblown because she feels that she is never going to face a fair trial, words from her own team, and also feels that the punishments and the charges were harsher, and that, hey, other parents are hosting these parties as well, and she feels that she was in a way thrown under the bus and used as an example. That's the disturbing thing. I'm wondering if
She's entitled to her feelings. We're grateful for the verdict.
Can you or your team clarify exactly what was read? Because there were times where certain counts were skipped over and not read, so it's kind of jumping around a little bit. Can you offer some, like a finite number of things that happened? Because it was kind of hard to keep track of during the reading.
Yes, what happened during the reading is on a couple of occasions, maybe 2 to 3 occasions, the defendant was found not guilty of one offense and then found guilty of a lesser included offense. And the lesser included offense was not next to that greater offense in terms numerically. So that's why it skipped around
Does that account for
a little
all of the
bit.
jumps? Because it feels like some counts weren't read.
Yes, we were. I was sitting next to Assistant District Attorney James Gibbons Shapiro. You know, we had kind of a spreadsheet, and we were following along like during the verdict reading. So it skipped around a little bit because of the lesser includeds. So there were a few of those, but overall there were more than 60 guilty verdicts.
Just so that we're not.
There were the total number of counts were 63.
Sure. How many
were found guilty? I think it was 61.
Yeah, I think the total number is probably closer to 55, and because there were some lesser counts that there was no verdict on because she was convicted of the greater.
Yeah, it is complicated. Sometimes I say things like dozens, but I understand that reporters want something more specific. So I think that the most specific we will be is she was convicted of more than 55 counts. She was found not guilty of anything on maybe 2 of those counts. Other than that, she was found guilty of lessers. And the reason that it doesn't add up to 63 is if she was convicted of the greater offense, then the lesser offense goes away.
There's a lot of evidence in this case about various use of social media, different platforms. Once the evidence did come out, to what extent do you feel like that did play a role in this case, one way or the other? What do you think this case says about, not maybe Snapchat specifically or Instagram specifically, which are of course ostensibly referenced in this case, but just in general what the evidence does show now that we look at this?
Well, I think the evidence in this case was quite strong because of a combination of dozens of victims and witnesses testifying, in addition, social media evidence, in addition, evidence of the defendant herself in terms of what she said and different conversations she had from the jail. And I think that's part of why this was such a strong and compelling case. Social media there's a huge debate in our country about the good and bad purposes of social media. Certainly this particular case, social media was a factor in the crimes that were committed and was not a positive in terms of this case. Now, from a prosecution perspective, it provided us a lot of evidence to convict her, but our goal in the DA's office is not that there should be a crime and then we convict someone. Really, our goal is for there not to be a crime in the first place. And so to the extent that social media facilitated this criminal activity, I think that's a very bad thing.
Can you weigh in on the sheer complexity? I mean, how many years has it been? 4, 5, 6 at this point?
6 years.
So many twists and turns. You said prosecutors as well that we've talked to for years. The defendant herself trying to speak out in this and that way sometimes in the process, a lot of times out of the normal process of court. And then just where your office stands today, if you're able just to reflect on all that and everything that you've done.
I am incredibly grateful that we have investigators and prosecutors that work in the DA's office that are as committed as they are. They're excellent, they're smart, but they're dedicated. And Investigator Hanks was dogged in this investigation and uncovered more and more criminal activity, more and more victims. And without her dedication, working with Rebecca Wise, we would not have found all of these victims, and we wouldn't have gotten the full measure of justice. It's if there's 15 victims, we want all 15 victims to be heard. To reflect the seriousness of the crime, every victim is important, and the defendant should be accountable for everything that she did. And then to have one prosecutor and one investigator working diligently on this case for 4 or 5 years, and then bringing in a new team several months before the trial was very challenging for Miss Lee and Miss Willis. But I asked them to do it because I knew they would. And I knew they would do a great job. And that's what they did. They understood the seriousness of this case, the gravity of it, how important it is to our community, and they worked their asses off. And I think the jury verdict reflects their prosecutorial excellence. And I know that Rebecca and Investigator Hanks and Joanna and Morgan have had innumerable conversations with the victims and their families and keeping them updated about what's happening. And our office has a victim services team that has been in constant communication with the victims in this case. We never lose sight of the victims, and while we're focused on winning in court and making sure the defendant's held accountable, we're also incredibly focused on helping the victims heal and recover from this kind of violation and criminal activity that was committed against them. And we're just so profoundly grateful to the victims for coming forward and putting a stop to this. You know, the defendant manipulated them and used them and then tried to get them not to talk. And these children and their families were resolute and overcame that, and it's their resilience that led to this verdict.
How many victims were there and how many took the stand to testify? Can you reiterate the resilience to do that?
In this case, there were more than a dozen, we think 15 victims, okay? But more than 20 children testified in this case. And I think that given that this crime happened in a small town in our county, everyone in Los Gatos is 1 degree separated from one of the victims or their families in this case. And I think it's, while this is justice for the people of the state of California, I think that for the folks that live in Los Gatos, this is a real good day.